The WikiLeaks saga continues. The headline today, China is losing patience with longtime ally North Korea. In one exchange from April 2009, senior Chinese officials described the North Korean regime as, quote, a small child. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton is in Asia on a 4-day trip that will put her face to face with many of the leaders mentioned in these documents. Not always in flattering terms as well. Clinton had harsh words yesterday about the release of the 250,000 confidential cables.
Okay, so there are a couple things going on here. One is what is in these cables, how much is coming out, what is damaging, and there have been these debates about whether or not this endangers people's lives or, in this case, their reputations, countries dealing with other countries.
Is it embarrassing or is it more?
But is it useful? Or is it not? And people are really split on this. I asked on my Facebook page, and I was getting a lot of reactions. So we wanted to bring in other people to talk about this with us. I want to bring in Glynis McNichol. She's the editor of Business Insider's media page from New York, and she has been following things to do with media and the criticisms of these WikiLeaks. Glynis, without complicating this, what's the feeling out there? Is it helpful for us to know some of the details about international diplomacy that have been leaked in these documents, or is it dangerous?
Well, I think right this second it's a lot of fun. A lot of these cables are providing, they're a great read, they're making for great headlines. They're a lot of fun to read. I don't know so far if anything's been released that would specifically be categorized as dangerous. I mean, it's certainly an embarrassment to American officials and possibly some international figures, but I don't think anything that we've read so far is a danger to the country. I think the real danger, and what's probably going to be explored going forward, is how did this young kid stationed in Iraq get access to these documents? What if he could have access to things that actually did matter, that actually were part of our national security? So I think really that's the troublesome part about this, is how he found these, how he got them out, all of those sort of security questions.
But what about in terms of, as journalists, more transparency in government, the better, as we always say. But Glynis, when you think of it from that perspective, for the American people, or for, even take the media, is this kind of transparency good, or is this where transparency has gone from good to dangerous, do you think?
Well, I mean, part of that question is to say a lot of this information we probably already knew. We already knew who was traveling with Gaddafi. We already knew that probably the Mideast is not comfortable with Iran. We already knew that there's a lot of questions about North Korea and succession. So a lot of this stuff is almost, if you looked for it, you could have found reports about it in the media. What's been revealed is how diplomats are talking about it and how they are discovering this information, whether it be at a dinner or whatnot.
You're right. It's more stuff that you could write a book about, I suppose. But here's a question for you. Is this different for you than the release about military activities that was in the last WikiLeaks dump, which the government argued did and could possibly have endangered lives?
Certainly, I don't know if lighthearted would be the word to use here, but this is so much more gossipy. I mean, honestly, when you read it, it feels like the UN has written, a page 6 column. It's more entertaining, and you don't get the sense that what's being revealed here necessarily is dangerous to any specific person, the same way that first dump really made you question whether we're putting soldiers at risk. I don't think anything we've read in this WikiLeaks dump would make you question that we're putting military figures at risk. I think
we're just hurting some
the closest you could come to. Oh, you know what? Like, it's humanizing diplomacy a little bit too. I mean, you realize that people are chit-chatting at diplomatic dinner parties the way that everyone does at their own personal dinner party. It's just it's writ much larger. So I don't think there's that same sort of severity of result. We're not really endangering anyone's lives here. And the larger question is, when you speak about transparency, we live in a digital age right now. Things are transparent constantly just by the nature of we're being inundated with so much information. So
without
to go back
the media
to the point
being
of
the
how
filter.
Right, and the media sometimes, I think, doesn't provide enough of a filter, because you just can't possibly keep up with all of the information that's being thrown at you. So it's hard to say if there's a level of transparency here, or if it's just we're all trying to contend with this new way of exchanging information that we all are fumbling around with. And apparently, you know, the U.S. government, national security, is fumbling around with it much the same as everyone else.
Glynis McNichol, thanks so much for joining us from New York.
Thank you.
All right, home prices down again after steady gains.